I'd kick off with a bit of a motivational quote for us in SEO. So yeah, as Amy said, we're kind of used to challenges and evolution in the industry. So change is nothing new for us. There's always grander challenges for us to confront. But in SEO, for us to win, we need to embrace the change. So yeah, technical developments, unexpected algorithms, but the best approach has and always will be for these developments is to not panic, understand the changes that we're sort of dealing with, and react accordingly. So yeah, I'm going to speak through a few of the changes that our industry is going through, both right now and in the future. Put some minds at ease about the actions that we need to take. So yeah, if you've spent any time on LinkedIn, as Amy mentioned, in the last couple of years, you'll know that AI is the hottest topic in organic search right now. And AI is allowing platforms to sort of deliver more in-depth, human-sounding responses to users' queries. In theory, developing sort of generating a response users might be satisfied with right there in the results without actually going on to visit a website. So we will explore a little bit more on the functionality of how this works in practice shortly, but here you can see an example of Google's AI overview generated for the informational query, how do you clean a fabric sofa? So you can see there that the AI answer dominates the search results above the fold, with the other sort of traditional organic links, ads, other rich features following below. So this is becoming more commonplace. It is worth noting that this is still quite an experimental feature, and Google have actually quite recently had to roll out some changes to prevent sort of hallucinations or slightly unusual answers to queries. Other platforms, so there is with the sort of evolution of AI in search, this is creating diversification within the market. So traditionally, SEO has mostly been focused on Google. That will remain the case with a 91% market share globally. However, the AI has caught Google napping to a certain degree, and users are starting to diversify their search behavior across other platforms. So Bing was the first search engine to really embrace AI through its integration with ChatGPT back in 2023. So since that integration, Bing has actually seen a tenfold increase in app downloads on a monthly basis. So people are starting to shift towards Microsoft also with the development of Copilot. Perplexity is purely AI-powered search engine, so it's a dedicated platform, and it does go beyond pure information discovery. So it allows you to really create focused queries with, for example, you can ask it for recommended YouTube videos for things like recipes or any other topic that you can think of, or you can specify Reddit, for example, so it will go away and crawl and index all of Reddit's content in order to find the most relevant answers to your query specifically within that platform. And yeah, in 2 years since Perplexity launched, it's now at 15 million monthly users. And lastly, about AI without talking about OpenAI. So that was the company that sort of kicked this AI revolution off, as I'm sure you're all aware, and now boasts 100 million users. So it's massive and a real competitor to the Google ecosystem, and actually is, it sort of triggered Google to really accelerate their development of their AI capabilities and the integration within search. So ChatGPT, whilst not strictly a search engine, it does now have access to the internet. And there are some rumors that OpenAI is going to be launching a dedicated search product in the coming months. So again, a real threat to Google's sort of dominance and market share globally. So yeah, in order to the challenge that AI in search presents, we need to get a fundamental understanding of how it works. Now, some aspects of this process are still a bit of a black box, and platforms with their proprietary technology aren't going to reveal to us everything about, how the system works and how answers are generated. We can understand at a fundamental level the systems that are in place. So all the platforms use a retrieval augmented generation. So what this means is, well, I'll take you through an example. So the example that you can see here, and I'm sorry to bring up the Euros for any England fans in the room, but I put this together before Sunday. But yeah, the query, who are England playing next at Euro 2020? This is an example of a large language model, free access to the internet. So it'd be like ChatGPT when it first launched. So it only has access to its training data. So ChatGPT, when it first launched, only had training data up until the start of 2023. So for that query, it doesn't have access to the information it needs to answer the query. So either it'll have been programmed to deliver a response saying exactly that it can't answer the query, or it'll have a stab at it, which he did again when it first launched, and it'll come up with something probably wildly inaccurate. The model below is an example with this process called retrieval augmented generation. So again, this is the system that all of these AI-powered search platforms are using from Google, ChatGPT. And how it works is the model has access to the internet. So when you perform a query, it will go away and perform an internet search. And actually within ChatGPT, it'll tell you that it's doing exactly that now. But again, it's the same with the other platforms. So the model can go and locate relevant sources to the information that relate to my original query. It will then convert those sources into data that it can understand, and it will compile all of that alongside my query. It will then go away and check with its training data in order to formulate a logical response. But because it's got those more up-to-date sources, it's able to answer the query because it's gone away and done that internet search, and give me a more accurate response. So the selection of the sources is the key element here, and finding those citations, because that is the point where we can still have some influence over the SEO optimization process and how those citations are selected. So yeah, how do they go out and actually choose which citations are going to be the right ones to pull through for these AI-powered answers? So again, all platforms use similar methods, and this is where there is there'll be some proprietary technology powering these signals. So the first one, that is an absolutely critical thing that I know has been talked about a lot in recent years within the organic search industry, but within the sort of context of AI in search, it's more powerful than ever. So these different platforms will use natural language processing to understand your website's content and decide how relevant to the user's query that content is. Various platforms will have different signals. So again, Amy will touch on this a little bit more when we talk about the Google leak, but these do vary by platform, but there are signals that we need to focus on, again, like domain authority, content quality, trust, largely, certainly within the Google ecosystem, powered by external factors. Again, this won't come as a surprise to any of you who've been involved in SEO for a while, but yeah, still absolutely vital part of delivering performance within search. Organic rankings, so that have already got good organic rankings, are more likely to appear within the AI-powered overviews. So again, it's worth still trying to target those positions. Context is really important. So with natural language processing, these platforms will be able to understand the context of what the query is being asked. For example, again, going back to my Euros query, the platforms will understand that the Euros are going on right now, and that it'll be able to go away and find relevant sources that way. And finally, diversity of sources. So to avoid bias, these AI search platforms are trying to diversify the sources that they're pulling citations from. So they don't want to lean too heavily on one website to get all their information, or one, whether it's Reddit or YouTube. So they will be looking to pull a diverse range of citations. So yeah, what's the impact going to be of this development? So there have been some studies done so far. As I say, this hasn't, these changes, certainly with it for Google, haven't been rolled out globally yet. Particularly, it's quite limited in the UK. But we are expecting a traffic reduction of between 18 right up to potentially 64% for some informational queries. So that obviously is quite concerning, but there is still opportunity for us to capture value from search. Views, as you saw from the example, are going to take up a big chunk of space above the fold. So up to sort of nearly 1800 pixels. So on a mobile, that's pretty much going to dominate your whole screen. And we are seeing, again, from these recent studies, we're seeing that there's large variance by sector. So depending on the nature of the query that the user's performing. So for example, healthcare, you're seeing quite high percentages of, it's like 74% of AI overviews being surfaced for those informational queries, versus finance, where it's as low as 17%. So obviously this is subject to change, but the nature of those queries and the market that you're in is definitely something to consider when we're thinking about the kind of strategies to address this and still try and capture some value.
So yeah, to go back to that Google leak that I mentioned earlier, for anyone who didn't hear about it, it was around about May that it kind of came to our attention that there was a piece of Google documentation that had surfaced. I think it actually came out about April, but it took a little while for it to kind of gain some traction and be noticed in the industry. But what it allowed us to do was actually have a little bit of a more reliable insight into some of the things that we have suspected for a while, understood and been thinking about from our own perspectives, and kind of have that little bit of verification from Google. So there was kind of two things really that stood out. One of the biggest takeaways was around user engagement metrics. So it was really quite interesting to see that actually, Google doesn't have this mathematical equation that works for absolutely every website, and it's just a one-size-fits-all ranking equation. It's actually very much about user engagement. It's about those dwell times. It's about the behavior of a user on your website, how long they spend on certain pages, how long they spend on the website, where they click to, where they click from. And it's very much solidifying, the idea that it is all about the user, and it very much is about us making our content and our websites to actually work for users first and foremost. The second bit was a little bit more controversial in the sense of linking. So anyone who has worked with any of us will know that we talk about backlinks a lot. In SEO through digital PR, it's a really important factor. But a little while ago, some people at Google did come out and say that actually maybe links aren't quite as important as we think they are. And we all found this a little bit strange, because from our own experiences, we see the impact that they have, and we know that they are important. So the real challenge here is, what do we listen to? How much of what we're being told do we have to take on? How much do we have to apply our own thought and our own interpretations of what we're seeing as well? And I think this is a really good example of where I think we were right. Links are really important. But again, it's back down to that word of relevancy. Relevant links pointing to a website is the most important thing that we can think about when it comes to backlinking and directing equity towards websites. And that's what we see as helping grow our site authority, which we do know has an impact on ranking. So, it's all about thinking about the information that we're given, how we interpret it, and how we apply that to what we're doing. And then another area is around that multi-channel search. So I think there are some really big numbers that we're seeing coming out, especially from social channels. 1 in 10 Gen Zs actually prefer using TikTok to make searches than they do Google. Reddit has now hit 70 million daily users, which is quite a big number, and it's really rapidly growing. That's a really huge increase in only 4 years. And YouTube having 1 in 4 results coming from video actually surfacing on the SERPs. So as these rich results that we know are going to be so much more important. So all of this kind of solidifies what I was talking about earlier, which is that shift towards needing to make sure that our content is in more places than just sitting on websites and sitting on what is going to be a Google search result. We need to make sure that our content is spanning across all of these different channels, and that it's relevant. Again, that word, relevancy, is always key. And the reason that we know this is because user journeys are becoming so much more complex. We used to have this situation where if you wanted to purchase something or you had a question, you'd go to Google, you'd click through to a website, and then you would either convert, whether it was on an app or even if it was on mobile. But it was a very linear journey and very simplistic, and we knew exactly where our users were heading. But now, if we look at the second side of the screen, it's kind of chaotic. There is so many different user journeys that people can be taking, and so many different user journeys that people are taking. They can be starting on YouTube and then going through to a social platform, then going through to a website. Or they could be starting on Amazon, for instance, which is why we have Alex here to talk a little bit about Amazon later on, because all of these journeys are all different. And not only do we need to make sure we have varying content, we need to make sure we're kind of across all of these points of interest and channels where actually we're going to see users coming through, and across all different types of content, because they can come to different channels at different points in their journey. So we need to make sure that we do cover off a lot of these channels wherever relevant, to make sure that we are pushing the users through so that they do eventually end up on a website and converting. Because all of these channels as well for SEO have kind of their own little microclimates where we actually have to optimize them all slightly differently. And we need to make sure that we're doing that so that we can drive through our users, as I said, to a website eventually, hopefully to convert.
Now we know, I guess, what the main challenges are in front of us within organic search. So all of these, as we've discussed, could have significant bearing on your ability to perform as a business within the organic search ecosystem. So we need to understand how we react. What do we do about it? What's next?